Welcome. This is Impact 2021. My name is Nathaniel, and I am, I guess, your host. For those of you who have been here before, you know that this is our continuing conversation where we talk about just a myriad of topics from church, religion, um, from social issues, current events. We talk about anything and everything. And it's our continuing conversation where we continue to talk about this. This is your opportunity to also participate in the conversation. You can type your questions into the comment section. And as they are typed in, they will be read and addressed. And so, again, my name is Nathaniel. And so, let's continue the conversation. Um, Recently, we've been talking about the Black church, and we've been talking about the role of the Black church, and we've been talking about the role of the church from not just Sunday, but Monday through Saturday. We stopped off a little last week, and we went into the schooling area, and we talked about school, and we talked about the church, and we also just talked about individual responsibility when it came to public versus private, and the responsibility that we have to our community. And as we continue to explore the church, one of the common themes that we hit on is community. When we're talking about the church, and our church is in our community, when we're talking about the responsibility of the church and the participation in the community on a daily basis. And that comes down to schooling and other things like that. And so, one of the other things that we really want to look at here is what is the responsibility of the church in each and every individual community activity? Is that a place that we should be sticking our nose into? Is that a place that we stick our opinions into? And, I guess some people would say, is that a place that we should stick our religion into? But today is another little a stop off moment in that conversation. We have to go to one of the things that one of the comments that we commonly hear when we talk about social justice. So we're kind of moving on to social justice, and we'll swing back. Uh, During the whole conversation about police and policing, um, I would talk to people from time to time, and I would say things such as, "Let's discuss police violence against unarmed individuals. Let's discuss reforming police reform." And you would hear pushback from people sometimes, Black people, who would say, "Well, why aren't we talking about Black on Black violence or the gun violence?" And they would always say the same place. Uh, they would talk about Chicago, and they would talk about the gun violence in Chicago. And so they would deflect from the conversation where it comes to police and unarmed Black people so that they could talk to this uh, talking point of violence, gun violence, Black on Black crime. And that's specifically where they would come, Black on Black crime. And it was shocking because Black people would usually do this. Um, and my response has always been the same: is that we should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We should be able to talk about violence from the police against unarmed people, and we should be able to also talk about Black on Black crime, gun violence. Um, if anyone has talked with me before, you know that when it comes to Black on Black crime, that's really not a significant thing, because all crime is crime of relationship and crime of proximity, especially murder and gun violence is a crime of proximity and relationships. And so, whoever you're in relationship with is who you're going to um, commit those crimes with, most likely. And so, white on white crime is just as prevalent as Black on Black crime. White on white crime is in the high 80s of percentile of people who are shot. 80% are shot by white people. Black people are in the low 90s, so it's right there beside each other. And then if you look at other cultures, they're also in a similar situation. And it's always weird to think that if I am shot and killed, I don't think that I'm really going to complain about who shot me. So if I'm a Black person, I don't think I would be more upset that a black person shot me and less upset that a white person shot me or less upset that another race shot me. So it was always weird for me to hear that. We should be just talking about crime and being shot and less worried about black on black. But anyway, I say all that because it's not a rant. I say that because recently what has happened is we've had statistic over statistic coming out and showing that there has been a significant rise in gun violence. There's a significant rise in violent crime over the last year. Um, Basically, if you really want to drill down on it, we can talk about the significant rise in crime has been 2021. And unfortunately, um, this can be put to a bunch of different things. The pandemic, it can be put to um, the lack of jobs related to the pandemic. It can be put to a result of some of the activities that went on with police violence in the previous year. In some locales, they have said that some police officers or police groups have pulled back a little bit. There are a number of different reasons that they're attributing to why uh, there has been such a rise in crime, violent crime, and shootings. Um, and so, why am I talking about this? One, because to those detractors who complained and said, "How come you want to talk about police brutality or police uh, violence against people who are unarmed? How police are treating black people, but you don't want to talk about, black on black crime or black shooting." Well, here's what we're doing it, and the conversation is what needs to be done for the crime in general. Now, I'll give you, we're a show and we talk about religion. I will give you a point that I will point to is that crime has gone up, violent crime has gone up, shooting has gone up as the pandemic made some police officers pull back the uh, because of the protests, and I don't think that's a very small, very very small group. But then also churches pulled back. Churches are closing. Churches are scared and hiding in the corner because of the pandemic. Um, and so when you have when they pull back, when churches and community churches who are serving the community, whether it's food and resources and helping out, and they pull back, well, what do you think the result would be? And so sometimes what I think we've talked about the impact of the church. Well, you can clearly see in some of these cases, from my vantage point, is that you can see that the church does have impact because when churches start to close, when churches start to pull back, when churches start to uh, not engage in activities that they need to because of COVID or fear of, the next year crime explodes. And this is not just in the black community. So I don't, I started off by saying black on black crime, but this is not a black issue. This is a crime issue. Shootings have gone up, crime has gone up, church have gone down. Now, again, you can look at people can say, well, it was COVID because everybody was stuck in the house and, you know, people are out of work. And so it could be those reasons. But I'm going to sit back and say, and I'm going to look at the fact that if the churches have pulled back, some churches have closed, some and have not reopened, some churches have closed permanently, and some churches have gone to a limited amount of activities, and the activities that they cut were the community activities. I'm going to draw a conclusion, whether it's right or not, that the church has stopped or reduced some of its impact in the community. And as a result, some negative things have been able to creep into the community. Now we're going to take one of the comments that we have. The question becomes for those who have the reaction of what about black on black crime? What are you doing about the issue? Great. And that's a great point because when we talk about What will happen is you have the conversation and you start talking about police violence, or you start talking about something. Doesn't even matter what it is. And then these people will be like, oh man, we need to be focusing on black crime. What about all of that? Why come you're not talking about that? And they always say, how come you're not talking about that? And they don't talk about what they're doing. They say, how come you not talking about that? It's funny. Um, but yeah, the question is, what are you doing? And as the church, when we're talking about crime, the question is, what are we doing? Now, I particularly don't think that we necessarily need to focus in on the crime. Um, I don't think that's the church's job. You can have police officers for that. We focus in on the root of the crime. Let me get back to that. The root of the crime may be that there aren't economic opportunities. What can the church do about that? The root of the crime may be I need more. I don't have enough to survive, and so I commit crimes. Um, or I may get into the criminal operation for lack of money, lack of resources. The areas that the church is supposed to uh, kind of lean towards. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you visited me, but not even that. When I was sick, you helped me get uh, well. Versus when I say that, we know here in the United States we have um, a backwards health system where we charge people to be well. Um, that's where the church can come in and try to assist and help people um, to get themselves well, because financially it costs a lot of money. And so the connection that I've drawn, and so as we've talked and we talked through, and we've said, well, what is the role of the Black church, and is the Black church still effective? Is the church still effective? I think that we can point to and look at some of the results of what happens when the church is not at full power, or when the church is not operating the way um, some of the churches are not operating the way that they have and they could have. And so when we look at this crime and we look at the rise in violence, and we're talking about over the last week, there was a number of 493 people who were shot. It was one of the most violent weeks that we've had in the United States. And so when you're looking at numbers like those, you really have to ask yourself what's so significantly different. Because the reality is, last year at this time, we had COVID, and last year at this time, more people were out without jobs, but the numbers weren't as high. The numbers didn't get as high until 2021, and so it crept up into 2021. And so the difference between then and now is, where's the church's participation? I believe that the sooner some of these churches who have really shut down their activities get back into the community, get back into doing what they've been called to do, that then these numbers will go down. Crime isn't a result of crime. Crime is a result of some other kind of ill. Again, lack of resources, lack of opportunity. Those are the things that lead there. And I think that that's where the church, especially the Black church, again, where we have our influence and we show our power, is that we care for the community and that we participate in helping the community. Um, there have been a lot of food pantries that have been closed down and have not been able to open back up. And so when you're sitting here and you're looking and you're saying, well, last year at this time, I was able to go over to the food pantry and get food for my family. This year, I cannot. Well, how do you fill the gap? What do we do there? There is stimulus that's going around from the government, but as that has dried up, what do you do now? Where does your next meal come from? And that's when decisions are made about, especially for the younger people, decisions are made, or am I going to go towards the street life to be able to try to make ends meet for my family? And so, as the church, our response needs to be to make sure that we take care of our community in the gap. And that, again, that's how we show the power and the effectiveness of the church. All right. Well, that's what I have for today. Um, that's the conversation for today, and to really think about, as we look at what's going on in society, and as we look at where we are, and sometimes when you look at issues, and the world is going to try to take the issue from the standpoint of this is the reason why, this is the reason why, this is the reason why. I say let's take a look at it and see, well, is the reason that some of these bad things are happening, is it because of some of what the church is doing or the church is not doing? And so again, we talked in previous shows, and I know that you've talked to people on your own, that churches have not been doing the work that they used to do. And so I think that some of these ills, societal ills that are showing up, is because of the lack of activity from the church. And we have to get back to that. And so if you didn't believe the church had power, we'll believe in the results. And right now, the results show that crime is going up as the church is pulled back. Thank you. This is Impact 2021. Please continue to join us. We'll be here again on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. Also, feel free to join us on Thursdays for Thursday Thirst Bible Study, Armani, and on Sundays for Sunday worship at 10 o'clock. You can find us right here on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you again. My name is Nathaniel, and this is Impact 2021.